All right, I think we'll get started here. I want to welcome everybody for our webinar about our upcoming tours in the lakes region and northern Patagonia region of southern Chile. I see some familiar faces on the call here, some veterans of our tours. And I think we have Carlos. Carlos looks like you're on the call. Carlos is our resident mechanic from Santiago, who we hire, and is a good friend of mine and a partner of ours in Chile. So he's in country, and he's been on a couple of these tours with us. And so welcome, Carlos. Thanks for joining us from Santiago.
Thank you very much, Dieter. Can you hear me?
We can. Yep.
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Carlos. As Dieter said, I'm a veteran bicycle mechanic here. At you guys' service. I'm gonna end up being your best friend on the tour, and I'm very happy to join you guys.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Carlos, my friend. Let me just go quickly around down the schedule here, kind of the itinerary of what we'll talk about. So we'll do some introductions. I think some other staff members may be joining us shortly. We'll talk about Anthem Sports Tours. Why do we go to southern Chile? I get that question a lot. We'll talk about the tour overview and the general itinerary, day-by-day itinerary for the tour. We'll talk about some of the accommodations, and the second most popular question is, well, how do I get there, and how long does it take there? What airports do I fly into and out of? So we'll answer some of those critical questions, and then we'll answer more questions that you might have at the end. So without further ado, if you have a question, actually, at the bottom of your screen, you've got a little hand button. So make sure you click that, and at the end we'll open up your microphone. Well, I think you can open up your microphones now, but at the end we'll take open questions like that. But if you have a critical question you want to jump in, feel free to do that. Just hit the hand button, and I'll recognize you as soon as that pops up. All right. So a little bit about us. My name is Dieter Drake. I'm the owner of Anthem Sports and Anthem Sports Tours. We've been producing cycling events and tours for the last 20 years now, Carlos. Holy smokes. We've been doing this for about 20 years, producing cycling events, professional amateur events all over the U.S., including some of these events you see here, the Great North, the Tour of the Catskills, the Tour of the Batkill I founded. My wife and I founded that back in 2005. So we no longer run the Tour of the Batkill. We ran the Tour of Vail out in Colorado, a big professional event. RAGBRAI, I actually was, believe it or not, was the director of RAGBRAI in 2020 and 21. So I was very, very fortunate to be part of that great event in the upper Midwest in Iowa. And all said and done, it's more than 100. Actually, I think it's about 120 events since about 2004. So we've got about 25,000 or 30,000 people that we've been fortunate enough to meet at our events over the last 20 years. So we've got a little bit of experience in that world. We've also, so in 2016 or so, we decided, well, we want to do some traveling and share the love of some of these places around the world with our cycling friends. So we started this tour company in 2015, 2016, really with the goal of going to Chile. And I've shared this with Carlos, this story. We went to Chile initially in 2016, kind of a beta tour. And I fell in love with the place. Everybody that I went with fell in love with Chile. It's such a wonderful place to go for cycling. We'll talk about some of that. And so now we go to Colombia, also New Zealand. We have a gravel tour scheduled for October in Colombia. Another gravel tour scheduled for New Zealand in April, the South Island in New Zealand. Currently, we have a ride across the USA ongoing. We're supporting actually a single rider for her charity. We're supporting her. Next year, we plan to do a full-blown tour right across the USA, and also a half crossing. So if you don't want to do the full 6 or 7 weeks crossing across the USA, you can start and or finish in Des Moines, Iowa. And what we're going to have some more. We're talking about going to Iceland. We're talking about going to Norway, Spain, Italy, Belgium, Australia. So we really enjoy traveling. I get to share, again, these beautiful places, mostly Chile. We go to Chile. We're going to be going to Chile 4 times, I think, next season, Carlos. So we're going to everybody's going to get to know you pretty well next year.
I guess so. Yeah, definitely.
Some of these photos over on the right side of the screen are you can see Carlos, Sean upper right. He's our very good friend and also a staff member. Liam, my son, in the car there on the left. We've got Victor down on the right. I'm looking at my route for the day. You can see me sharing my phone with Victor. He's our driver of the tour van, which you see there. And some other my daughters actually lower left. They came and helped out last December, so that was wonderful. And I am a rider as well, so you can see my big shoulder there on the right hand side, the left side of that photo, leading some friends back in December. So, no, I'm sorry, January, because I couldn't ride in December, could I, Carlos?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, a little mishap on the bike trail here in Greenville, South Carolina. So that's a little bit about us. All right. The next question is, where's Chile? Where is it? And that's another popular question we have. Well, if I can spin this around the globe for you, we're up in the upper part of the northern hemisphere, and here's Chile in the southern part of the planet in the southern hemisphere. It's this big long country over on the right hand side. Oop, let me go back up. Big long country on the right hand side that basically occupies the southwestern part of all of South America. It's a wonderful country, very diverse. As Carlos knows, he's in the Santiago region, but the Atacama Desert is the driest desert on the planet. In the northern part of Chile, go all the way down 3,000 miles south, you get to Patagonia and Ushuaia, Argentina. Not in Chile, but Ushuaia, Argentina is the major city down there. And Chile is just this wonderfully diverse country that is really a cycling mecca now. We see Chile as this huge opportunity for us. This is our 9th season going to Chile. And we'll talk about the roads and the accommodations and things like that. But it is this undiscovered cycling paradise. Well, we've discovered it, but maybe you haven't. It's this wonderful place that we really call it's our second home now. We love Chile, and we'll talk about some of the benefits of going to Chile. So, capital Santiago. The official language, obviously Spanish. It's about 20 million people now. So a lot of those people are located in Santiago, right, Carlos? As I understand it, that's most of the population.
Yeah, there's like 7 million people who lives in Santiago, and the rest are in the rest of the country. More the people live in Santiago, and then the south. In the north, it's not that much because the distances are very long, and majorly there's a lot of desert and mining, activity going on.
That's a great point. So, what are some of the industries in Chile? A lot of people ask me about that. In the north, it's mining. So, your cell phones and the copper pipes in your house, a lot of that copper, a lot of those minerals, those earth minerals, they come from northern Chile in the Atacama Desert. Mining is the major industry in the north. In Santiago, it's a major metro area, and there's industry around there. In the south, it's really farming and tourism. I think those are probably in fishing. Those are probably the major industries in the south of Chile, and we benefit from those because those are the open landscapes and great roads that we love to ride bikes on. So that's Chile, and that's why we go. I talked about it. So why do we go? Well, because of photos like this. We get to take photos like this and share these beautiful views and the wonderful culture of Chile. Great wine. We can talk about some of the wine. I share my favorite story down in South America. You'll have to go to Chile to get that story. I love the story about the Carabinera wine, and I tell that at the first dinner every night. It's warm from December to March. Right. So while we're freezing, it's snowy up in upstate New York, where I'm originally from, even in South Carolina, it gets pretty cold where we live now. It's warm. So we go down there. The earliest we've gone down there, I think, is the beginning of November. And even then it wasn't terrible. It was probably 60s and 70s. When we go in December, it's well into the 70s each day. And it's bright, sunny, usually weather. The rainy season is the winter season. South gets a lot of rain in the south in the winter. They don't get a whole lot of snow, but they get a lot of rain, and that usually subsides right around September, October. So by December, it's pretty much full on summer. Very cycling friendly. You'll see some of the roads in some of these photos. Very cycling friendly. Unlike the U.S., where you get a lot of angry drivers and texters and drivers and things like that. We've never really experienced that at all. No angry drivers that we've ever noticed, really. It's a relaxed culture. It's very casual, great food and hospitality. We'll talk about some of the food options and the hotel options that we've got, and also just great people. People like Carlos and his friends and other people that we've made friends with over the last 8 or 9 years in Chile. They're all personal friends. A lot of these hotel owners, restaurateurs, just people in general around the south of Chile, they're personal friends of mine now. We see some of those people every year. Okay, so what's included in our tour? We're talking about some of the dates you can see on the lower right. Those are our tours that are upcoming. But what's included? All the accommodations, obviously. You get off what I like to say to people is really generally once you get off the plane in southern Chile, there are no expenses that are really incurred unless you want to go buy some things to bring home, bottles of wine or jackets and things like that. If you want to bring those home, that's fine. But pretty much everything is covered after you get off the plane in southern Chile. So all the meals, the van transfer from the hotel to the airport, back and forth, the support van, the mechanic, obviously. Our premium tour even has a masseuse that we're hiring for each day. Mechanical assistance will provide you a day bag for the tour van. So instead of putting all your cycling gear up on top of the van or in the van or in the cars, you'll have that day bag where you can put your sunscreen, you can put your extra water bottles, your extra nutrition. We'll provide that for you. It's actually a backpack. But we'll do a custom jersey for the tour, and I see those from our tours this past December. Carlos, I see a lot of people wearing those now on their Instagram feeds now, which is really wonderful.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
Yeah, it's great. So really popular jerseys, and we use Corey of Switzerland now, which is our jersey provider, and they really do a really nice job. So all the daily excursions. So each day has kind of an adventure built in. After the ride's over, or typically after the ride's over, we'll go do an adventure. We'll go to the hot springs, we'll go to the lake, we'll go to the volcano, go to the waterfalls. So all that is included. All the entry fees in some of those places, that's also included. So what's not included are the actually lunches is on there. That's not true. We actually provide all the lunches. That's from a previous slide. We don't do tips. Obviously, personal expenses, as we talked about, airfare, you're responsible for getting to southern Chile and back. Bike rental is extra, so we have a rental company that we use to rent bikes from in the south of Chile. Anything not mentioned, if you want to stay extra days, and that's actually really popular because the travel is substantial. If you want to stay extra days, either before or after the tour, absolutely, we'll make those arrangements for you, including hotel reservations, and if we need to book a shuttle for you, we can do that. That's very, very easy. Even a rental bike, if you need a rental bike, if you're coming early, we can arrange that as well. So these are our 4 tours that we have lined up for 2024-25. We have our standard tour in December. So we'll talk about the dates. So that and the training camp and the gravel tour, those are all 7-day, 7-night tours. The premium tour, which we added just recently, actually, the last 3 or 4 months, that's in February, and that's actually an extended tour. So the itinerary that you'll see here coming up day by day is the same for the 11-day tour, but we're going to take a handful of rest days before, during, and after that 7-day tour, make it 11 days, where we're going to do a full-on hiking day, or we're going to do a boating day, or we're going to do a shopping day, for example. We'll do all those extra activities. So it's not quite as compressed. So you have a little bit more time to spend in this beautiful area. All right, so here we go. So after you arrive, we'll talk about the travel, but you arrive in a city in southern Chile called Temuco, and there's an airport, a nice airport. It's a small airport in Temuco. You fly into Santiago. We'll talk about the travel. You fly into Santiago. You fly another hour and a half south to the southern part of Chile. If you remember the map, Santiago's right in the middle. You have to fly another about an hour and a half south to the city of Temuco, which is one of the major airports in that area, and that's the closest one to our start city of Pucon. So Pucon, Chile is about an hour and a half, I think, shuttle that we provide from the Temuco airport over to the small city of Pucon. Pucon actually reminds me of Lake Placid, for example, in upstate New York, the old Olympic city. It's a very touristy town. There's actually a half Ironman that runs in January in the city of Pucon. Once we arrive there, that day 0, That would be like a day if you want to come in a day early. So this day 0 is really a day early. If you wanted to come a day early, and a lot of people do that, we'll be in Pucon that day early. We'll certainly come to pick you up, and we'll do a little check of your bike, that kind of thing, and a lap around, basically a lap around the Pucon area, and visit the lake, visit the waterfront, stop at the coffee shop, that kind of thing, just to make sure your bike is situated correctly. So those are the folks that come in a day early. And we strongly recommend that, actually, because it gives you a little bit more time. It gives us more time as staff members to get your bike situated, whether you're bringing your own or you're renting one. We want to make sure it fits you correctly. So that gives us a little bit more freedom and time to do those kinds of activities that day early. But this is Pucon. It's a wonderful place. You can see Carlos already fitting our friend Dan from Virginia. His bike from this past January, I think, and a lot of these are from January. But this is the small city of Pucon, and it looks exactly like that photo, with the Volcan Villarica right in the background, which is alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, so day 1. This is about a 30-mile, very short, somewhat short ride, about a 30-mile ride up to the Lake Cabugua, which is a beautiful lake, and you can see the lake up on the upper right-hand corner. There's a little bit of climbing on this day for sure, but it's about 28 miles. Very casual. No ride is mandatory, believe it or not. All riding is officially optional. We have the tour van behind us, and depending on the size of the group, 1 or 2 more cars supporting. So if you ever wanted to get in the van and not ride the rest of it, or take the van to the top of the climb up to the lake and ride back, perfectly fine, or any variation thereof. You can ride any, all, or none of each day's ride as you see fit. There's no obligation to ride each day. We do have some logistical concerns, obviously. If it's getting late in the day and we have dinner planned, for example, we may strongly suggest, let's say, get in the van. But it may be perfectly obvious in those times. And there have been cases where everybody's gotten in the van because it just makes sense. And everybody, either we're too full from lunch, because we do have lunches halfway through each of these rides. Maybe not this day, but most rides we have full lunches. And sometimes there have been cases where the food has been so good and so filling. Actually, we've all gotten in the van and rode the rest of the way. All right, so that's day 1. Day 2. And Carlos, don't forget, if you want to jump in and make some comments about this, feel free to do that. We've got an excursion this day. Actually, this is day 1. So we ride up, we take the van back up to Los Ojos de Cabugua, which is this wonderful private park, actually, that we go in, pay the entry fees, and they've got walkways all around these waterfalls. Water seems to be flowing everywhere. It's a wonderful little local attraction. All right, day 2, actually, there's a couple different options, and I'll talk about this for day 2. This is our first serious, really first serious day on the road. This route here, 45 miles, is the Ironman, half Ironman bike course, and you'll see the markings on the road if you come in December, or any one of the tours that we have coming up. You'll see the markings on the road for the Ironman. They obviously do the swim in the lake, and they do the running in town, or actually out and back on this route, and then this is the biking route back and forth. Once you climb you go by the airport, right? You go by the airport and it flattens out for a long time. We have lunch about halfway through here, and then we turn around and go back, and the road looks exactly like that. It's the roads are really good. A little bit rough in town, as you might imagine, but once you get outside of town, the road looks just like that. So I mentioned there are 2 options. There's a long option on this day as well, and that looks like this. If you really are interested in riding longer this first day, you can get about 85 miles in and ride up to almost to the border of Argentina. And I forgot the name of the lake, which is right up there. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Mirador del Lago Quillehue. And it's a wonderful climb. It's a beautiful road all the way up. It's actually inside the national park. And there's a nice little stop area up on the top where we turn around and we check on everybody to make sure everybody's okay, make sure they've made the climb, take a bunch of photos, and we ride back down to meet everybody else that's done the short route. So if you can see the little the camera mark here, the food mark, food icon, that's our halfway point for the short ride. And we'll go back up to that. The short ride is here. We have lunch, like I mentioned. We have full lunches as you like halfway through each day's ride. So we sit down and have lunch and enjoy each other's company and the scenery and the food. And that's a restaurant we've been going to for about 9 years now. All right, so I mentioned this is our excursion, Volcan Virica, which is the most dominant feature on the lake, on the east side of the lake, of the same name, right at Pucon. So behind the city of Pucon is this major volcano, and it's an active volcano, as you can see on the left. This is a photo from January, or it might have been December. And we take the van up there after our ride is done and we're settled down. Maybe we've done some shopping in town. At about 7 o'clock, we go up and view the volcano. There's a small ski area there. Actually, we go out and visit, take a bunch of photos, and then about halfway down, we come down and at the restaurant El Castillo restaurant, we'll have dinner right on the volcano, and that's what it looks like right there. We enjoy some great wine, some great food. That's a friend of mine that runs that restaurant. We've been going there for about 6 or 7 years now. And if you stick around a little bit longer, wait for the sun to go down, you'll take photos just like this that my friend Percy took in December. And he actually took some video. So that's actually lava. We did some math on that. That's probably a 400 or 500 foot tall lava coming out of the top. All right, day 3 onward. So this is our first day. The first 3 days, essentially 2.5 days, we're in Pucon to let people settle in from the long travel. We don't move hotels. We stay in one hotel right in Pucon. We ride from the hotel back and forth. And then really Monday, so this will be Monday for our December tour, really our 3rd day, we're on the road now. So now we're moving from hotel to hotel, with the exception of the premium tour, as I mentioned, that has some stops embedded in between. But for the next 3 or 4 or 5 days, actually, we're moving from hotel to hotel. So this is our first day where we go from Pucon down to Coñaripe. And ultimately, we end over in Panguipulli, which is over to the west side of that lake at the bottom. And it's a wonderful ride. We stop for lunch in Licanade and have a full lunch. It looks just like this right on the lake. And it's, again, it's summertime in December, certainly in January and February, full on summer. So that's there, July, August in the Northern Hemisphere. It's the same thing. School is out, lots of traffic in some of these smaller towns, but we avoid most of it. In December, certainly not. It's pretty wide open roads, and it's kind of pre-tourism season. But that's what it looks like. We have lunch, take some photos. It's a very iconic spot for us to be stopping at for lunch and enjoying. We get on the bike again. We ride all the way down to Coñaripe, and this is really one of the marquee excursions that we have for the trip. And a lot of people talk about this for a long time after. It's the Termas Geométricas, which is the hot springs in geometric hot springs outside of Coñaripe. So once we're done with our ride, we load up in the van, and then we drive about 20 minutes up to the hot springs. And it's this wonderful tourist attraction, and the entry fees are paid. We pay for those. And we spend up to 2 or 3 hours here, depending. And we can go from, there's about 12 or 13 different hot springs that you can go in, and they're all labeled with different temperatures. And you can see some of those here. Or you can stay in one, as I did pretty much this last time. There's actually, I don't know if you did this, Carlos, but there's actually a cold plunge pool. So if you're really, really
yeah, I was there like for 10 seconds.
Yeah, if you've got a strong heart. My son did it. I've got some friends that have done it. And it's as cold as you can imagine. It's probably 48, 50 degrees, probably not even that. Very cold water. And then, next to it, up the hill a little bit, there's just steaming hot geothermal hot water coming out. So what they do for these pools is they mix those two, obviously, and they create different temperature pools all the way up this very lush rainforest valley, as you can see here. Really a wonderful spot. And we take our time, and there's a coffee shop and restaurant at the bottom that a lot of people stop at before we get in the van. And then we drive down to that city of Panguipulli where we stay for the night. And that's about probably an hour drive, all said and done. So day 4, as I mentioned, we start in the city of Panguipulli, and we ride to Puerto Nuevo, which is kind of a new stop, actually. I think this past season was the first year we stopped in Puerto Nuevo at Boca Lago Hotel. And in the past, we've gone around on the east side of the lake in Yifan and Futrono. But the last couple of years, the last 2 tours, we've gone to the west side of the lake and gone to Puerto Nuevo. and it's about the same distance. So it's about a 75-mile ride. We stop again. We about halfway. We stop for lunch. There's lots of photo opportunities between where we start and where we finish this day. But the last, let's say, 10 or 15 miles are a beautiful promenade around Lago Ranco, the Lake Ranco, around the west side of the lake. It's a beautiful road. Actually, they have a large Grand Fondo around this lake every, I think it's October. And it's a very well attended Grand Fondo that does a full lap around the lake, but I've not been to, but I know the folks that have run it. It's so this hotel is a wonderful hotel, and these are some of the photos of our ride that day from this past. A lot of these are December and January. So we get to enjoy the lake. The lake is the hotel that we stay at is Boca Lago Lake Hotel, which is right on the lake, and it looks just like this. We have our dinner right on the lake at the dining room, and there's a beach waterfront that you can go swimming in. That actually I went swimming in this past January, and we have dinner right on the lake, and it's a wonderful spot that we've discovered these last 2 tours in Chile. All right, so day 5. As I said, we're moving from hotel to hotel now. So this was so day 5. This is our 3rd hotel, I guess, because we spent the first couple of days in city of Pucon. So we go to another town. The next lake down, essentially, is Anthem, which is Lago Puyehue. So it's about a 58-mile ride that day. A lot of people ask us about the terrain for Chile because they just assume that we're riding in the Andes and we're climbing up and down these giant mountains like you might in Europe and the Pyrenees and things like that. It is not that. It is very rolling countryside. It is not unlike upstate New York or Pennsylvania or Virginia, and similar landscape. But the Pacific Northwest is actually its closest analog. I was just up there not too long ago getting that tour started. But it's very similar to those areas, very green, rolling countryside, no major climbs with one exception at the end of the week if you want to climb up the volcano. We'll talk about that on day 7. But this is our ride for the day. It's the roads are wonderful. The roads do actually improve the further south we go in this tour. It's a north to south tour. And they definitely improve. And we'll talk about some of the cultural differences between where we start in Pucon and where we finish in Puerto Varas. All right, so what do we do? So this is our excursion for the day on day 5 in Lago Puyehue. And we stayed at a couple different hotels. We pretty much settled on 1 or 2 on the south side of this lake. And it's this beautiful volcanic lake, as they all are, surrounded by the Andes. You can see the Andes in the upper left, the upper right-hand corner here. There's me kayaking. And I think, Carlos, you were my pilot in the 2-person kayak that day, as I remember. Is that right?
I was, yeah.
Yeah. And you know why I broke my collarbone this past November. So you can't, that's my right arm probably taking that photo. My left arm was not working that day or that week. But it's a great area. It's another beautiful lake. We have coffee at this coffee shop on the left at the end of the ride, and coffee and ice cream or both. We have that at the end of the ride. That's, again, as you can see the lake in the background. It's a wonderful little small town on the south side of the lake that we really, really enjoy. So that town is called, it's got 2 names actually. It's called Entre Lagos, or it's Puyehue. It's the same town. Lago Puyehue is the lake behind it. So that volcano is actually, that's one of the ever-present volcanoes that we see sort of the mid part of the ride, and that is Puntiagudo. So as I understand it, Carlos, that means pointy hat or so.
Pointy, that's right.
Pointy hat. So that's actually not an active volcano, but that's one of the volcanoes, and that's the view from one of the hotels that we stay at.
But for sure, it's the most beautiful one around that area, huh?
Real pretty until we get to day 6. We start to see our one of the major climbs that we'll end up doing on the next day, day 7. This is Volcano Osorno. We'll talk about that in a minute, but this is our day for day 6, and it's one of my favorite days actually, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit. But it's only about 37 miles, very short. It's mostly, I think it's a net downhill if you look at the elevation profile. Again, we're going from Lago Puyehue to Lago. We actually stop at Lago Rupanco, take some photos. There's There's a great mirador, which is an overlook. It means overlook in Spanish, on the west side of that lake that we stop at. And on a clear day, I think we can see 5 volcanoes from that one spot. If you can see that camera, that second camera icon on the route that day, it's really a wonderful spot. I think we had some clouds, as I remember, this past January, so we didn't get such a great view. But I've seen all the volcanoes from that viewpoint in the past. It's really a great spot. Again, that's what the roads look like. The roads are very high quality, usually a shoulder that looks just like this. Very low traffic in this part of Chile, especially where we go. I didn't really talk about the highway system in Chile. There's only one highway, Route 5, which goes from the north part of Chile all the way down to where we finish, honestly. And that's the interstate. It looks like an interstate that you would see in the United States. Very, very similar. Obviously, that's where most of the traffic is. They'll be over on the interstate, which is probably about 60 miles, not even that, probably 40 miles to the west. So very low traffic in this part of Chile, and the roads are wonderful. Oh, I didn't mention, so the upper right-hand corner, again, as I mentioned, we stop for lunch each day. So our lunch stop, believe it or not, is at the Dorchak homestead. And the Dorchaks are a family that relocated their entire family to this part of Chile about 10 years ago. And they have a catering business, among other things. So they invite us to have our lunch at their homestead each tour that we go by there in December, January, now February and March. So really great, wonderful family. They're actually from the Spartanburg area of South Carolina. And it's a great experience for people that want to learn about Chile and learn what it's like to live there. You learn that from an English-speaking family that can tell you the full story about living in Chile, the pluses and the minuses, but why they absolutely love it, and why they're never going to leave. They really love their areas. And they love having us. We've had large groups and small groups, but the feast that they provide for us, this is one of those days where it's very rare that everybody gets in the van at the end of this meal and rides the 15 miles back down to the hotel. The food is that good.
Yeah, the smoking salmon is fantastic, huh?
Amazing. So we haven't really talked about the food yet, but the food, as I've discovered over the last 8 or 9 years, is 100% authentic. There is nothing processed. It is all authentic. It is all fresh. So the salmon, as Carlos mentioned, that the Dorchaks provide for us, was caught within the day before or 2 days before. The lamb they provide was harvested the day before. The restaurants are no different. The restaurants provide authentic, fresh, local food in almost every case. Every restaurant that I've been to in southern Chile is that. It's very authentic. The food and wine, we'll talk about the wine, but the food is very authentic and very, very fresh and very good and high quality. So the food experience, culinary experience, is the whole discussion to talk about. But it's as everybody, that's one of the most positive responses we get. We do poster surveys, obviously every tour. We ask about the food, and it's always 10 out of 10. If they could score higher, they would. It's a wonderful experience just for the food. So day 6, again, we ride to Las Cascadas, a little town, more or less a hamlet, and a couple different hotels we stay at in that area. And then our day 6 is another very iconic excursion that we take. After our ride, we settle in a little bit, and we drive about 35 minutes over to Los Altos de Pechué, which is the waterfalls of Pechué. And Pechué basically means stone place in the native Mapuche language. And it's probably the most famous place in southern Chile, the most photographed place in southern Chile. So Carlos, when I was putting together the slideshow for this presentation, I had probably 400 photos that look just like that, various years and things like that. And we've been very fortunate in the last several tours where the photos, the views have been just like that in the lower right-hand corner and all these photos. It's really an amazing spot. We pay the entry fees, obviously, to get in there. It is a park. And actually, Carlos, we met the owner of that park in December. So we've got a conversation going with those folks. They actually own the very nice hotel that the premium tour is going to be staying at in February down the road.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Wonderful place. Lots of photographs. We usually spend an hour or two there. There's a cafe there, a restaurant if you want to grab some snacks. My favorite little gift shop is on your way out. And I've done a little plug for them to, if you want to buy any sweaters. I've got a whole closet full of sweaters and jackets that look just like that here in Greenville, South Carolina. And most of those have been purchased at that little gift shop on the way out of the park there. Wonderful spot. So then we go back to the hotel after this, and we'll have dinner, a light dinner. Actually, we usually do pizza or something like that at the hotel. And for the standard tour, obviously, we'll do that in December. All right, so day 7, catch your breath. Day 7 is a big day. So when I mentioned that southern Chile is mostly rolling terrain and there's not a lot of big climbs, well, I was kind of lying. This day is the Queen stage, as they say. So if you want to climb up a big volcano, well, here's your opportunity. It's about a 58-mile ride from the hotel to the finish, but I think it's about 16 miles to the base of the climb. You're going up Volcano Osorno. And it looks like that our friend Hunter, lower right, climbed it this past January, as I did. Actually, I was a little bit ahead of him this year. And that's what it looks like on the top of the volcano. It's a great climb. It's about, I think it's about 3,500, almost 4,000 feet of climbing over 12K. So you can see the 12K mark, 12.350 kilometers. So that's about 7 miles or so from the bottom to the finish. And the bottom is sea level. The top is the ski area. The very top, obviously, we're not going to climb up to, but that's another 4,000 or 5,000 feet to the very top of the volcano. And it's snow capped for most of the year, actually pretty much all the year. And then December, it starts to melt a little bit. And you actually see snow in December right behind the ski lodge that we have lunch at. Really epic climb. Everybody rides at their own pace. We take a lot of photos. If you don't think you can make it, you get in the van. There's a rest area about halfway up. A lot of people get in the van there. I've done that in the past. But it's really it's a great challenge. If you like climbing, that's your day to shine. You can actually climb about 4,000 or 5,000 feet that day. It's a great day. So from the top of the volcano, we have lunch. We sit down inside the cafe up in the ski area. And then we actually ride down, and that's actually a lot of fun. A lot of people don't ride up, but they do ride down. It's an exciting descent all the way down to the bottom. Takes about to get up. It took me a little over an hour, I guess, to get up it. Takes about 15 minutes to get down for everybody. And we take our time a little bit. Sometimes the corners can be a little switchbacky, so we go slow on those corners, but we let it wide open and we get down in about 15-20 minutes. And then we regroup at the bottom, as we do for all these rides. We typically regroup at the letter A there. That's the regrouping spot at the bottom, both before we climb and when we get down to the bottom, just to make sure everybody's safe and ready to ride the rest of the way, which is about a 35-mile ride from the bottom of the volcano over to our last city of Puerto Varas, which is by far my favorite city in southern Chile. We'll talk about that too. So that's the day 7. And our day 7 excursion is really spending time in Puerto Varas, which is a wonderful city. Very much like Lake Placid or some of those touristy towns. They have a wonderful waterfront. They have wonderful restaurants, as Carlos and I know. A lot of folks that are on this call know. I see Ken there. Ken knows all about the restaurants in Puerto Varas that we go to. All of our favorite stops. It's really my favorite town in southern Chile. Beautiful hotels, wonderful restaurants, great bicycling. It's really a wonderful spot. So on day 8, this is I guess we'll call it an optional day 8. So this was really the day that we end the tour. In the afternoon, the tour officially ends at about noon this day. So this would be for December. This is our second Saturday. So the tour officially ends at about noon on this day, but we squeeze in one small more ride. So when I say it's 7 days and 7 nights, actually it's 8 days of riding, maybe 9 if you come in a day early. And we ride up to one of my other favorite towns called Frutillar, which is a small lakeside city. It's about 20 miles north of Puerto Varas. And we ride there. It's a wonderful ride all the way up. It's fully paved. It didn't used to be. There used to be gravel, as Ken knows. I think we rode some gravel one year, and we go to Fuchiara, we have coffee on the lake. We have pastries. My favorite, cheesecake for breakfast. They have that. So we'll do this at the wonderful Teatro del Lago, which is it's the theater on the lake. And it's a world-renowned theater where they do opera, they do singing, they do all sorts of performance art inside this opera house right on the lake. I don't have a photo of that, but this is our veranda, the coffee. This is their veranda and the coffee shop and cafe at the end of the theater. It's a wonderful spot. A lot of people don't ride all the way back. You can. I've done it both ways. I've gotten in the van at the end and taken the van back, and I've ridden it all the way back in the past. Again, all riding is optional. If you want to get thin, that's fine. Take photos, enjoy the coffee, walk around town. What I didn't mention, the further south we go, so we start in Pucon and we go about 300 miles south to this city, Puerto Varas and Fuchiara. The German influence is actually pretty obvious the further south we go, and you'll see this in a city like Fuchiara. It's a very German town. So the whole part of southern Chile was colonized by the Germans in the late 1800s or so. So there's a lot of evidence of that in the architecture, the food, the menus often. There's actually a German restaurant here in Fuchiara. It is 100% German, and the folks that go to the restaurant, a lot of these are German expats and they live in this area. So you'll see that influence, that German Swiss influence, the further south we go for the tour. Again, wonderful waterfront, lots of photos taken. This is the volcano over on the right-hand side. This is the volcano that we climbed the day before. You go basically up to the snow line, and then when we're finished, we ride around the south side of the lake. All right. I've really talked about the hotels and the accommodations. This is, again, the area it's a very tourist-friendly area. The hotels are concentrated around the lakes that we stop at each night. And here's a small sample of some of the hotels we stop at. For all but the premium tour in February, the premium tour is more 3- and 4-star hotels, that kind of thing, mostly. But the standard tour, the range is basically that range as I've mentioned here. We stay in some 3- and 4-star hotels. We stay in lakeside resorts. We stay in some boutique hotels, which are some of my favorite. And we stay in cabanas, cabana hotel establishments. And the accommodations are always great. The people are wonderful. The food is always great. We usually stop at the hotel, like we stay in Panguipulli, and the cabana is upper left there. We'll ride there. And then we'll transport over to the city for 5 minutes to the city for dinner. And we're in and out using the van. So in that case, we're taking the van. In most cases, though, we're eating either at the hotel or we're walking. It's in walkable distance, like in Puerto Varas and Pucon. Obviously, the first 3 days we're in Pucon. We're staying at a hotel right in town. We're walking to the restaurants. There's no van transports. And that's the case for probably 6 out of the 7 or so hotels that we stay at. We're in town, so it's walkable, and there's no van transport with a couple of exceptions. But wonderful accommodations. Again, the range. This is lower right is our hotel at Termas de Puyehue, another hot springs area. It's actually an old monastery, believe it or not, I think it's a monastery, or was. Now it's this 4- or 5-star hotel that's very popular with the Argentinians, because Argentina is not more than probably 20 miles from where this hotel sits. Wonderful 4- or 5-star hotel. It's got a bowling alley, wonderful accommodations. In fact, that photo on the left side is from the hotel, and it looks just like that. Beautiful garden out front. So we don't stay there every year. Our standard tour probably won't stay there this year, but we stay at actually very good friends of mine run a boutique hotel right down the road, and that's actually very nice as well, as Carlos knows.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's La Jalteque, which we stay at, which is a place that we discovered just by chance my first year that we went down there prospectively in 2015. And good friends of mine, Audrey and Mikhail, a French couple that relocated their family there probably 15 years ago. They bought this boutique hotel and really have done a wonderful job with it. The food is amazing. The accommodations are amazing. The views, as we saw Punta Yogudo, that volcano was taken from their back porch. And we, as the hospitality in southern Chile is exemplified with that hotel in particular. You walk in the door, they want to know your story, they have a personal conversation with you, they invite you out to the porch out front, and they're bringing you your pisco sours or your Chilean wine or your soft drink, if you like, out on the porch, and you watch the sunset. Travel, though, again, one of the major questions we get about Chile is how do I get there? How long does it take? Where do I arrive? Where do I depart from? This is a point-to-point tour. So you would arrive nominally in that city of Temuco, as I mentioned, and that's the airport code. So you connect in Santiago. All international flights, for the most part, connect in Santiago. Then you fly another hour and a half south to Temuco from wherever you're flying from around the world, US, Europe, anywhere. And you depart from the city of Puerto Montt, which is right next door to our end city of Puerto Varas, as I mentioned. So that's the major airport. Those are the two major airports that we fly into and out of. And again, from Puerto Montt, at the end of the tour, you would fly to Santiago, and then you would connect to your international flight to the US or Europe or Australia, wherever you're flying to. From the US, for example, from JFK, it's about a 9-hour overnight flight. So they typically depart from JFK, for example, or not Philly, but Miami. I think it's JFK, LATAM, for example. That's one of the major airlines that flies out of JFK direct to Santiago. It's about a 9-hour overnight flight. So we would leave at about 7 o'clock. You're going to get there with the time change that time of year at about 6 a.m. or so. And there's usually a layover a little bit in Santiago. And then you make your hour and a half connecting flight to Temuco. Miami, it's a little bit shorter. I think LATAM flies out of Miami. I've flown out into Lima, Peru in the past, Bogota actually, but my favorite is I just fly from here, honestly, fly up to JFK, then I take the direct flight to Santiago. That's the easiest one. But a lot of direct flights from different airports. I think LA also has a direct flight to Santiago. Again, we provide the tour shuttle. Once you arrive in Temuco, we'll provide the tour shuttle. And we'll bring you your bike, all your luggage, and we'll load all that up. We'll bring you that hour and a half over to our start city of Pucon in the north. And again, if you wanted to stay longer, our folks that are interested, I know there's a group that's coming to our premium tour in February. They have expressed an interest in doing some hiking in Patagonia proper, a little bit further south in Punta Arenas, in Puerto Natales, and that area to see the Torres del Paine, which is a very famous, iconic spot in Patagonia. They're going to be doing an extension. So after our tour is finished, they're going to spend another day in Puerto Varas at our end town, and they're going to get on that plane, and they're going to fly another, I think it's an hour and a half to Puerto Natales or so, 2 hours maybe, in a very inexpensive domestic flight, maybe $50, $60. Very inexpensive to fly south to spend a couple of days or 3 or 4 days down in that area of Patagonia proper. We can do that also at whatever your interests are. Carlos and I are talking about doing some extra trips before and after these tours, and so we can make special accommodations for pretty much any tour extension, either before or after the tours that we provide. Okay, so these are I mentioned we're going to Chile 4 times next season, so we're going to be really busy starting really in November. So our standard tour starts in November 30th, which is a Saturday, and we're going Saturday to Saturday. So we get half of Saturday, the following half of Saturday. It's 7 days, 7 nights. And that's our standard tour, as I just described to you. We actually have partnered with my friends over at Peaks Coaching Group. So we had our inaugural first Peaks Coaching Group training camp this past January. It was enormously successful. We had about 15 or 16 riders. So that's a training camp. So if you want more of a fitness related training camp environment, that's the tour for you. It costs a little bit more, but we're providing via Peaks Coaching Group and Hunter Allen some coaching, some training, more technical advice. The routes may be a little bit more challenging. We're doing some different things on the road. It's more for the athletically inclined and fitness and race oriented folks that want to get more hands-on training. But again, enormously successful. We had a great time this past January, and that's the tour that I rode this year because I couldn't ride in December this year. As I mentioned, we have our premium tour in March this year. That's an 11-day premium tour. Again, the same itinerary that I just presented to you with some embedded days before, during, and after the tour, where we sit down, we relax a little bit, and we do some trekking, do some boating, do some hiking, do some bird watching, even that kind of thing. There's a masseuse that we're providing each day, as you like, each day for that tour. So a little bit more, price point's a little higher, but a little bit more relaxed. If you want the full experience in southern Chile, that's probably the right tour. And I'm hoping to go on that one myself, Carlos. We'll see if I can go on that one myself. I don't get to go on all these tours, but that's one I'm really hoping to go on this year. And I probably, almost certainly, will be going on that one.
Yeah, sure you will.
Yeah, I'll be on that one for sure. The gravel tour, this is a new addition that Carlos and I and some other folks, we were talking about doing a gravel tour. Again, gravel is enormously popular in North America for sure. And the advent of texting and the accidents that you see and things like that on highways. So road cycling has kind of inspired this gravel industry in the last 6 or 8, 10 years. So why not do it in Chile? The gravel roads are wonderful to ride on. So we're going to do our first gravel tour, which actually is going to include Argentina. So we're going to start in Pucon. We're going to go into Argentina, a little bit further south, and then come back in to Puyehue, I think, and then we're going to go back up to Pucon. So we'll do a lap around that area, the northern part of the lakes and rivers region in Chile, Araucanía region, and into Argentina and back over. Again, another 7-day tour, all accommodations, all food, everything obviously fully paid for. All right, I've been talking a lot. If you have a question, now's your opportunity. And if there's something I haven't answered about the dynamics of the tour, the accommodations, the food, the culture, I'm happy to answer those questions. Anything you might have to ask. Carlos, what did I not talk about? I talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, just for you folks to know, there's also bikes for rent. They're pretty good quality bikes that we've been working with. They're carbon fiber frames, electronic gear systems, very up to date. And yeah, our passengers have told us that they're just as good as the bikes that they bring from the States.
Yep.
One thing that we always need is your guys' measurements, so we can provide, like, I mean, if we can do that ahead of time, so we can have your bikes all set up. So once you get here, all your bikes will be, like the bike that you have at home, hopefully.
Yep.
So that's basically it.
And we bring extra gear, extra crank arms, extra stems. Actually have a lot of that stored down there.
Yes.
Extra bikes. We've got lots of gear and equipment and tools and that kind of thing that we either bring with us. We bring the nutrition as well down there. We have all the mechanical equipment you can imagine for fitting you correctly to your bicycle, whether or not, as Carlos mentioned, you're renting a bike or you're bringing your own. And if you bring your own, again, you're not on the hook for building it back up. We'll help you do that, or we'll do it ourselves for you if you like. If you're not comfortable doing it, happy to do that. We'll build your bike up when you arrive, and we'll pack it back at the end of the tour.
Yeah, the idea is for you guys to enjoy the trip and just leave that dirty work for us. No, I really enjoy a lot doing it. So nothing to say.
If I get roped into doing it, I like doing it too. I like working on bikes.
Just curious, do you get a lot of people bringing their own bikes?
Good question. About half lately. The inventory for bicycles in southern Chile has improved dramatically over the last couple of years. So more people now are renting bikes when they get there. But in general, it's about half. I like to ride my own bike, obviously. It's a little bit better for me to be fit on my own bike. Although the bikes down there are wonderful. I've ridden bikes down there as well. About half the people bring their own bikes. Great question.
Done.
Yep.
Dieter?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I think Ed raised his hand. Go ahead, Ed.
Oh, thank you very much. So yeah, great presentation. Thank you very much. I've never been to Chile, so this is interesting. So I'm sure this isn't unusual, but my spouse and I ride a lot. My spouse doesn't ride a whole lot.
Right.
And would this be a good trip for the two of us, in the sense that she would feel comfortable and I would feel comfortable?
Great question. We've had spouses, either riding or non-riding, mostly non-riding spouses come with their husbands or wives, depending, and they've had just as good a time. As I think Ken is on the call tonight. Ken and Pat came a few years ago, and Pat did some riding. She didn't do all the riding, but in that case, honestly, I was driving that year. We had a lot of fun that year, driving and stopping at other stops that maybe the riders didn't stop at. So it's, again, you're experiencing the same roads and same experiences that the cyclists are experiencing that day, but maybe you're taking a little side road here, stopping at a gift shop along the way, getting you a little bit extra time and to take more photos and things like that. So it's perfectly acceptable, and we encourage that. If you have a non-riding spouse that wants to come, then we'll make special accommodations for that person. I'll share that with you separately if you like, and maybe I'll put that in a follow-up email, kind of what the discount is basically for a non-riding spouse or a friend. Absolutely.
Yeah, my wife would be riding, but she doesn't ride
Yeah.
quite as much as this.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I do, and we but it's nice to be able to take a trip together.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So so the answer is yes. If you have a non-riding spouse or friend, please reach out and we'll send you the idea of kind of what that looks like.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Alyssa, did you have a question?
Yes.
Yes.
I was wondering, the gravel tour, how does that compare in difficulty to the standard tour?
Well, it's gravel, and it's Chilean gravel. So I'm not sure where you are, but the gravel here in South Carolina it's pretty tame gravel. In Colorado, where I used to live, same thing. Upstate New York, same thing. The gravel in Chile is a little bit more challenging, let's say. It's not quite as challenging as our Colombia tour. We're going to Colombia in the Santander region in October, and that's it's more mountain bike-ish gravel. So in that respect, just because of the terrain, and the surface, it's definitely more challenging. And the climbing, we're going over the Andes into Argentina, so the climbing might be a little bit more significant. I can share with you separately, and maybe I'll put that up on our site, the perspective daily itinerary and ride routes and things like that. I think we're about ready to do that. So I'll share that on the website. I'll probably put that in a follow-up email to that. But it is probably more challenging just because it is gravel, right? Gravel takes, for the distances versus the road, you're going to put out more effort riding a gravel road pound for pound.
Okay, yeah, and then the rental bikes for that tour, are they fully mountain bikes or hardtails or?
Those would be gravel bikes for sure. Unless you wanted a mountain bike, you could ride a mountain bike if you like.
Okay, so they're gravel bikes, like with top handlebars and bigger tires.
Definitely, yeah. There would be 36 to 40 millimeter tires on those. Yeah, or you can ride a mountain bike. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny you should mention that our Colombia tour in October. We had our inaugural tour there in 2021. So I think a couple of people on this call were on that tour, and we quickly discovered that anything less than 40 millimeter tires is probably not the right choice, and tubeless tires for sure, because there were a couple of flats with anybody that's had narrower tires. So I don't think the gravel in Chile quite compares to that. That's more of a mountain bike-ish kind of terrain and surface. But Chile is again on the gravel, as I mentioned, on the roadside for us 6, 8, 10 years ago, it was this undiscovered paradise. And I think the gravel is really the next thing for Chile. The gravel scene, we already know, as Carlos and I know, we've talked to some friends down there that are running gravel tours, and it's started to become more popular, mostly because the access to gravel bikes has all of a sudden increased over the last probably, let's say, 4 years.
Going up to the Surmas with the gravel bikes?
I'm sorry?
Just curious. You're going up to the Surmas, geometric bus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a nice ride. So.
Good question. Yeah, we should do that, shouldn't we?
It's a gravel bike, particularly.
Gravel bikes, yeah. So Percy is a veteran of tour. How many tours have you been on, Percy? 6 now? 5, 6?
Something like that, yeah. I think all minus 19 when I had my accident.
Right. So he's talking about the Termas Geometricus, which is the hot springs, the geometric hot springs. That's the gravel road
up there, but it's steep.
we take the van up there because it's a gravel road. You certainly would not want to ride a road bike up there. Yep.
I managed with 28mm tires, but it was a challenge, to put it that way.
Yeah, it starts fitting your wheel there at that last pitch, I think. Yep. Well, good. We're kind of at the end. Any more questions from anybody?
No, I'm just looking forward to the write-ups for the different rides.
Yeah. I'll send that. If you're interested in the gravel tour in particular, I'll send you that out in the next couple of days for sure. I think
that one or the standard.
Or the standard tour, sure. Well, that actually, I think that itinerary, at least the routes are up on our website already. So I think you could probably scroll through there and see our standard tour. And again, that's the same thing as our premium tour that we're doing in February, just fewer days.
Mm-hmm.
So Dieter, I have a question. Do you do Great North, Battenkill?
Yes.
Oh.
So great question. So I founded the Tour of the Battenkill years ago, 2004, and then we moved out of the area. I divested that event to another organization. So they've been running it since about 2018, 17. So the answer is yes, sort of with that one. And the Great North is mine as well. Yeah, I started that event, 4 years ago now in my old hometown of Cambridge, New York. So I'm running that one as well as the Tour of the Catskills coming up in about 3 weeks in the Catskill Mountains.
Right. Well, Great North Battenkill was awesome.
Oh, good.
So
excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Those are some of my favorite roads to ride on the planet. Again, Washington County, New York, and upstate New York is still one of my favorite places to ride a bike.
Yeah. No, it was great. So thank you for the Great North Battenkill.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, unless there are more questions, I think we'll end it here. I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. This was really a great interactive presentation. I loved sharing this wonderful home away from home with anybody that's interested. Again, the travel is long. It's kind of a chore to get there in a lot of cases, but once you get there, it's hard to describe the beauty of southern Chile. It is just this amazing place that some of these views that you see on your screen here, they're in front of you. You're actually a part of it. You're part of the landscape now. So you're up on top of a volcano. You're witnessing nature in real time. It's really an amazing place. And again, the culture and the food and the hospitality is really second to none. So we may end up living there at some point, our family, but not quite yet. But it's a wonderful place to be, and I would definitely consider. I strongly encourage you to consider going in December or any of the other tours that we have coming up. Ken, you had a question? Oh, I think you're still on mute there. Yeah, I think you're on mute there, Ken.
All right. I just want to add that I don't do a lot of repeat trips, but I've repeated this trip quite a number of times.
Yep.
And I can tell you it's a great trip. I highly recommend it to everybody.
Thank you. Yep. So you're second in seniority to Percy. I think Percy's been
Percy's got me beat
6 times, and you've been at least, I think, 3 now. Yeah.
I did the beta though.
You did the beta, 2016. That's correct.
That was still the best. With knowing nothing, just keep riding.
Yeah, a lot of mystery rides that year. So, a lot of discovery.
It was fun.
Yep. A lot of fun. So again, thank you.
It's a very unique getaway. I mean, I've seen the Alps. It's just a different place. It's definitely something else. And you said the food is just magnificent, so that's nice. A good plus, and
Yep, I agree.
Same for me. I mean, I repeat some places I really like, and that's certainly one of them. So
yeah, thank you for that. All right, everybody. Okay. Thank you again. Thank you so much for joining us. It's great sharing these, answering these questions and presenting this tour to everybody. Much appreciated for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.